Hi there, my name is Dr. Travis Holland and I'm a Senior Lecturer in Communication at Charles Sturt University, Australia. This podcast is an exploration into our digital society. It forms the lectures for my class, Envisioning the Digital Society, but also aims to engage you, the listener out there beyond the classroom. If you like what you hear, please send a voice comment through Anchor or Spotify or get in contact via the details in the show notes. In this episode, I'm exploring the notion of participatory media. We'll look a bit at the history of it, some key concepts and thinking, and also a couple of case studies about how participatory media is used by businesses. One of those comes from Dr. Tracy Edmondson, who will present a case study drawn from the sporting world. Welcome to Digital Society. As much as it might seem like a natural phenomenon to participate in the creation of media and culture through uploading photos to Instagram, slapping text on an image to create a meme, setting video to a trending song on TikTok, or producing a podcast and sending it out into the web, this mode of media production is actually pretty unusual by historical standards. In the several hundred years since the Industrial Revolution, media has gradually become more and more concentrated in the hands of fewer and fewer large industrial players. We have an historical situation in which the ability of the everyday person to participate in the creation of culture has ebbed and flowed, along with other social and technical changes. By the early 2000s, the emergence of social media and Web 2.0 brought the power to shape culture back into our hands. You and I and everyone listening are now simultaneously a producer of content and a user of content, what QUT Professor Axel Bruns famously labels a producer. And the content we consume is produced both by our peers on the internet and medium-producing organisations. Participatory media is a term that captures a variety of newer digital communication technologies and platforms that are used by non-professional media makers to create and distribute media items and ideas. These technologies are a method of both collecting and sharing information and of understanding. They are tools for communicating with others, and therefore modes of being together and of creating and participating in social spaces. However, Henry Jenkins points out that while it, quote, "it matters what tools are available to a culture, it matters more that what the culture chooses to do with those tools." In order for participatory media to matter, they must be used for active participation. Digital media makes it possible for small individual behaviours to add up to a collective value by making it much easier or more affordable for people to do things together than they used to be. Using the web, it is now clear that it is easy and inexpensive enough to contribute to cooperative enterprises. Many people will choose to do so for a variety of reasons, whether that be for reputation, altruism, curiosity, learning, a sense of reciprocating value to a community that provides value to them, as part of a game, contributing something for public use that you had to do for your own purposes anyway, or sometimes for pure nonsensical entertainment reasons. We've seen on the web that participatory media allows people to engage in production for all of these purposes. Tim O'Reilly has described participatory media as Web 2.0. By positioning, quote, the web as platform, he suggests that Web 2.0 technologies have, and a longer quote here, an implicit architecture of participation, a built-in ethic of cooperation, in which the service acts primarily as an intelligent broker, connecting the edges to each other and harnessing the power of the users themselves. It is this built-in ethic, to use O'Reilly's words, which underpins the services described as participatory media, and which point us toward a future where the ability to participate is spread across the culture and no longer limited to the hands of a few. this next section, I want to present a case study of the Lego Group, and particularly their platform, Lego Ideas. I currently have a paper under review that I co-authored with University of Queensland researcher Beck Wise on this topic, and much of my thinking comes from that paper. It also comes from my own fandom of Lego. It's a product that I use, that I spend a lot of money on, and that I really enjoy. I've considered submitting to the Lego Ideas platform, which is the primary case study here. Though initially and perhaps primarily a children's toy, Lego has, over the last few decades, attracted a substantial adult audience, often referred to as adult fans of Lego, or AFOLs. The creative affordances of Lego bricks have allowed AFOLs to establish numerous fan conventions and events at which they display their designs, and it is through Lego Ideas that the company seeks to engage in the participatory media ecosystem. Lego Ideas was established in 2008 as a collaboration between the Lego Group and a Japanese company as a crowdsourcing platform called Lego Kuso. It was relaunched as Lego Ideas in 2014. Crowdsourcing is, quote, an online distributed problem-solving and production model. That quote comes from Brabham. It became popular from about 2006 as a new approach to generating product ideas. It is a process by which, quote, the crowd was co-opted, according to Gezi et al., and where products designed by the crowd become the property of companies who turn large profits off this crowd labour. That was Brabham again. I'll put these citations in the show notes. The Ideas platform invites fan designers to submit ideas for new Lego products, which then pass through a series of filters before reaching a stage at which the company considers them for production. And this includes multiple stages of public voting. After reaching the final stage of fan voting, potential products are assessed by the Lego Group on a range of factors. Each of these stages is laid out in the Lego Ideas guidelines, along with authorship arrangements. Successful designers receive, quote, 1% of the total net sales of the product, 10 complimentary copies of your Lego Ideas set, and credit and bio in set materials as the Lego Ideas set creator, end quote. Beck and I suggest that the Lego Ideas website is a platform, which Lee describes as, quote, a digital social technical system that creates relationships between different entities. The affordances of the Lego Ideas platform engage both fans who actively produce fan products in the form of designs and photographs submitted to the site, but also fans who aren't contributing their own designs but are voting. The Lego Ideas platform is presented as a channel for fans and designers to use their existing passion and creativity productively for their own financial benefit and for the considerably larger economic benefit of the company. Adult designers using the platform do so only in alignment within the operation of a set of guidelines that constrain and guide their decisions in a way perceived to be an appropriate reflection of the Lego brand. Like other online platforms with social features, the Ideas platform is a commercial infrastructure in which community is shaped rather than a community infrastructure. In turn, the platform and its users intersect with other participatory platforms, such as social network sites, where they promote their ideas to garner the magical 10,000 supporters needed to progress to the next step. Throughout the process, Lego collects massive amounts of user data from both participating fan designers and other users of the site through both technical means and social signals. And I think that case study is really important because while we talk about participatory media in kind of high-minded terms about giving everybody the opportunity to contribute to society, and I quoted a bunch of ways in which that might occur, what we also see is this technology being turned to economic gains. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing. Critique and criticism isn't always or shouldn't always be perceived as a negative. But what I am pointing out is the way that these technologies, which academics quite often take as I say, something quite high-minded, actually can be used in other ways. and they're quite successfully used by companies such as Lego. You'll often see companies putting out votes and polls to determine their next move, for example. Or you'll see companies responding to pressure on social media to bring back TV shows that have been cancelled, or that kind of thing. And those too are also participatory media signals which feed into the culture. So it's not necessarily about just creating our own ideas or our own products or our own media output and putting that out into the world. It can also be about contributing to other corporations and activities and larger cultural processes. I'm now going to switch to the case study by Dr. Tracy Edmondson.
The case study that I've chosen for this particular topic, I think offers a good example of when old and new media collide, which is sort of one of the discussions in the recommended readings for this, as described by Harry Jenkins in his discussions on convergence culture. So I focused on Community TV, which was a sports streaming service which was launched by News Corp Australia in June 2022. They described it as a new era when community and grassroots athletes are at the forefront of everything we do. The new home of community sport live streaming across Australia. Essentially, what News were offering was an opportunity for sports who, I guess, can't always afford to live stream. The opportunity to do that for them, with the promise of helping them to remain competitive with other sports, increase their exposure and potentially their participation footprint. Live streaming obviously has many options and opportunities available, and while some of the elite professional sports like Cricket Australia, etc., the NBL do a lot of this themselves. There's a lot of your really major sports who are able to do some of these things in-house, do their own live streaming, their own sort of full broadcast, but it's not really a viable option for a lot of your, sometimes not always just minor sports, but other sporting organisations, particularly at a community football level. I guess the opportunities and the benefits to News are quite significant. They get additional benefits for their subscribers because basically to access community TV, you need to subscribe to News Corp. So not only, like I said, it's an additional benefit to current subscribers, it was an opportunity for them to get new subscribers and new revenue. Sporting organisations have to pay a fee to News Corp for these events and competitions to be live streamed, whilst, it may be a significantly less cost than them doing it themselves. There is still a cost. At the same time, News isn't just doing this because it's a nice thing to do. Obviously, they do benefit, as we said, financially, but it also gives them additional content, at a time when they've often felt that they're competing with sports for content. And like many other organisations, they, for them, content, and particularly video is the number one sort of content for online and for media organisations. So the content that this the live streaming gives them, they have journalists writing stories about the events and competitions that they're live streaming to drive traffic to those live streams, which then essentially drives more subscriptions. I guess there's there are some downsides of that, which personally have experienced in my own sporting organisation. I work for New South Wales Rugby League. We had they were live streaming a junior representative competition of some of our matches. We also streamed some, but we weren't in a position to be able to stream everything. So it was a partnership in terms of them, I guess, absorbing some of those sort of costs. But we had an incident where, there was the Daily Telegraph ran an online report promoting an ugly junior fight and a junior footy brawl, which came up on my mobile phone one Sunday morning. I was surprised to see this because as a person working for that organisation who's generally aware of any of those types of issues which may get media attention, I hadn't heard about this one. And when I clicked on it, because obviously I need to subscribe to keep across what's going on, I was surprised to find there was not one punch thrown in this ugly brawl. There was a lot of pushing and shirt holding and grabbing and shoving, etc. But certainly it wasn't the ugly junior footy brawl that it was being. So it was quite misleading and inaccurate. And unfortunately, despite conversations with the journalist who wrote it, who clearly wasn't the same person who wrote the online headlines, 6-8 hours later, this same information was still being promoted about it being a wild video, which went out in the editor's afternoon briefing. So, these types of stories are very damaging to a sport when you're trying to attract young children to play. It also can be damaging to brand reputation, commercial partners, etc. I mean, that's just one example of a downside of that relationship where you actually don't have any control. Because also, I guess the other aspect to that is that, sports journalists today write copy about these events. They set KPIs and the amount of subscribers that they attract as well. So, and that's something that they can directly measure internally. So I think it's an important point for sporting organisations to note when they enter these arrangements, what they're actually entering into and what they're giving up and what they may not always have control over.
And we're potentially talking to students who may be on the journalism side of that. They may be on the strategic communication side of that. They may be on the production side where they're the ones out there filming some of this content and putting it online. Or they may be, in your type of role and trying to manage the outcome. And I guess a message to get across is that people need to think about presenting information accurately and fairly to all parties involved, no matter what side of the sort of comms equation you're on there. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Digital Society. Don't forget, I'd love to include your voice on an episode, so send a clip through Anchor or Spotify. I'm Travis Holland. Talk to you next time.